Okay, it started.
Well,
Hi, welcome to our recorded video chat for military travel hackers. My name is Lisa, and I initially started this group a couple years ago. It evolved kind of out of just a hobby and a passion for helping military families travel for cheap or free. So we're going to answer a couple questions that were submitted via our Facebook and Instagram. And just a general disclaimer that this is not financial advice. This is truly just what we do as an admin team and things that we've learned along the way. And it's also not all about credit cards. There are also plenty of other things that we do in our group just related to military benefits and traveling that you can utilize without having credit cards. And so a couple things before we get started, just that we recommend is if you do want to get into this hobby, really self-reflect and talk with your partner about your financial situation and whether or not you feel like you can be responsible with the credit cards, because the major thing is that we don't condone debt. Having a lot of credit cards does not mean that you're going to be charging a lot more things. We literally just recommend using them for your everyday spend so that you can reap the benefits of that. So it's not buying things you wouldn't normally buy or anything like that, and never carrying a balance. We always pay off the credit cards every single month. And that's really it before you get started, to just kind of ask yourself and think about. Anything else?
No, cool.
okay.
Thanks, Lisa.
Okay.
So I'm going to just start by reading questions, and we're going to just jump right into it. So the first question is, what's the 524 rule and how can you check it? So how do I know what my 524 status is?
Karen, do you want to take that one?
Sure. So Chase, this is specific to Chase. Other ones, other banks don't matter, but basically you can't have had actually opened a card, personal card, more than 5 in the last 24 months. And so a way you can track this is if you already have a Chase card, you can go into the Chase app and look in, I think it's called like the My Chase journey, My Credit journey, something like that. And you can go through and you can like click through and it will tell you exactly when a card was opened. And from there, like, so, you know, if it was June of 2021, then that's now dropped off of your 524. And then it also tells you too, if you are an authorized user, because that's how I found out. So I was actually denied my first business card because I was actually at over 524. And so I had to call them and say, like, listen, I'm an authorized user. And so it tells you there too, like authorized user. And then if you go and you ask to get removed, it will say terminated. So Chase like sets it out really easily for you. Like, are you the person? Are you the main account holder? Are you an authorized user? Have you been terminated because you like got your spouse to take you off? But yeah, that's the main gist of the rule. Business cards do not count towards that. So it's only personal cards and it's any cards. So you go open a card at Gap, that's going to count. Like anything, Ashley Furniture, those all count.
Yeah. I will add, well, I've never actually checked on the Chase. I've always looked on Amex under their credit report. So this one actually sounds a little easier. Yeah, I'll have to check that one out. But you guys have maybe seen us post a lot about Travel Freely, the app that I like to use. I don't know if all of y'all are using it, but I like to use it. And it will track as long as you're going to have to enter your information first. So I had to go in Amex and I had to go look through the reports and pull up all of our cards and what their open dates were. But then I entered it into Travel Freely. But if you're just getting started, I'd recommend doing this like from the get-go. And it tracks, it not only tracks and tells me, oh, you're 324, but if I hover over it, it will tell me what cards are my 3 and when they're going to drop off. And then I think it was my Southwest card just dropped off, and I got emails like, hey, you're eligible now to like
Okay.
get it again if you'd like. So just having those email reminders was nice. It's not what I'm doing yet because I'm kind of doing a different strategy right now, but I know, and it was a reminder. So that's really cool. And then you also, it will track when you have to go in, but once you reach your sign up bonus and you've met that minimum, you will say, I got the bonus. And then I'm assuming it will then at that point track it from when you actually got your bonus. Which we can talk about a little later, but that plays a role in when you can possibly reopen that card again. But that's another way I like to track it. But if you don't even know and you have to start from scratch, Chase or Amex both have tools.
Yeah, Chase is definitely easier than Amex in my opinion. And another thing to just add to the business card is you have to be under 5 for 24 to get approved for the business card. So for instance, I just was at 4 for 24 and I opened the business card, but I'm still at 4 for 24, which is really nice. So if you're going to, plan to open a personal and a business, always open the business first.
Yeah. And we have a blog post on this. You could also probably just like search 524 in the Facebook group and you'll probably see tons of different posts and comments of people talking about it. If you're maybe still a little confused or I wouldn't let it stress you out too much. I think it's just important to like consider and know. So for example, I think I should know this, but because I just had one dropping off. I think I'm now 324. But because I'm 324 and I want to stay under, like my priority, the last 2 cards have been business cards. Like I'm getting a lot of points, but they're not changing my 524 status at all. So if there is a good opportunity for a card, one of them specifically being the Southwest card this fall, I want to make sure I have not only a slot for it, but if I want to do another business card, I also have a slot for that. And then we really just started playing P2 with my husband. And so he's got quite a few cards just this year alone. So I don't know, this may change down the road, but for me, I feel like my strategy is I need at least one of us always under 524 at one time. Like if somebody's going to be over, I want it to just be one of us. But I don't know. We'll see how that works down the road. But should I move on?
Sure.
Okay. So these next couple questions have a little bit more to do with where we see a lot of people kind of be the most reserved about getting into this hobby. So this has a little bit to do with like credit and like how you handle finances, that type of stuff. So the first one is, should my card be paid in full each month?
Yes.
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 So you definitely don't want to be, it kind of, if you're paying money and interest fees, then that defeats the purpose of saving money and earning points,
Well, and we learned when we PCS this last time, we bought when the housing market was crazy, and then we had to dump a bunch of money into our yard that was cash. And so we actually took out a small loan through Amex that was a very low interest rate. It was like 3 or 4%. Like I think it was like a $5,000 or $6,000 loan, but I think over the course of the year, the interest was only going to be like $250. So if you are in a tight position and need to do something, that was smarter than charging it to a credit card that has a 22% interest rate. And we paid it off, within 4 months. So then we even paid that much less interest on it. So always check too, like if you do need to do something, for Amex, if they are offering like a low interest small loan or something like that, as opposed to charging on a credit card.
Caroline, do you have anything?
Not for this.
Not yet. Okay.
Agree with the above.
Okay. Why don't active duty service members or spouses, like why don't we have to pay credit card fees for Chase and Amex? What's the law?
So I learned this a little while back, but it's a lot of people think it's SCRA, but it's actually MLA. SCRA has to do with cards, in my understanding, cards that you opened before becoming active duty. which for a lot of us whose spouses joined or you joined right out of college, like you might not have had a credit card. So I know some banks will only waive the fees if you have had the card prior to being active, but Chase and Amex waive them under MLA, which is opening cards while active duty.
Yeah. And they don't have to.
Right. It's definitely,
I think
not,
that's, I just like to, because some people be like, well, why don't some of the other banks do that? And it's because Chase and Amex don't have to.
right.
So
And they also cap like the interest rates and stuff like that. I don't know a ton about that because like I said, we don't carry a balance. So I don't even pay attention to the interest rates ever, but there have been posts in the group about getting money back. And I have heard of people too, like who've had like the South or a credit card and they've gotten money back on interest fees because of these laws, or they've gotten their annual fees reimbursed. But that varies also, I think, bank dependent.
Yeah. And then important note, since we mentioned business cards earlier, business cards do not fall under this. So if you have a business card, Chase or Amex, that requires an annual fee, you will pay that, even if you are a spouse or active duty. So I actually just got my very first business card with the annual fee. And I sat there and at first I was like, $95. I was like, if I added up how much I am saving by not paying, like,
oh my
it's
gosh,
mind blowing. I think I made a post on Instagram. I think I did. It was like some of our top favorite no fee cards and what the actual annual fee was. So anyways, I was like, I can suck up $95. That's okay. But there are still, like, the inks are our favorite. I say I don't mean to speak for you all, but I feel like,
I mean,
I feel like they are. So they have some with really great benefits that are no annual fee. So there are still business cards that don't have annual fees, but there are some that do. So just know that it's easy to kind of get in that default of, oh, it's a Chase card, no annual fee. But if it's a business card and it has an annual fee, you do pay that. Mm-hmm. Did anybody else want to say anything about annual fees? Reiterate that it's for spouses and active duty.
Yes.
So a lot of people
have their own account, and it's not. I think that's another confusion. Or people are like, "Well, I have a platinum," but it's like, no. Do you have your own separate login? Like you log in and you only see your charges, and you have your own points. And I feel like that's another question we get a lot too. Is like, well, why do I need my own? Well, you get double the benefits of everything. You get the sign-up bonuses, which are where you get the majority of your points. So you get double those, and then you get all of the digital credit and, airline credit and all of that. And so that's why it's super lucrative for you each to have your own main account.
Preach. Okay. When should I close credit cards? And I think in the context of when this question was being asked, I don't think this was necessarily in regards to reopening. I think it just means straight up, when should I, like, I don't know. I have not closed a card. Actually, I say that I 100% did back, like, when I was a newlywed. I think my very first credit card ever was a Dillard's credit card, followed by, because I worked there, and that was followed by, I had no health insurance and had to get dental work done. So I got the care credit card, I think is what it was. Mm-hmm. So I definitely canceled those, but yeah, so I lost some years in my credit history, but I mean, whatever.
I think a lot of people ask about their exit strategy, getting out of the service. So, because people are like, what if I have 10 cards? That's going to kill my credit.
Yeah.
And, for instance, I always say the Aspire is the one card that I would pay for, but say I was going to get rid of that, you can downgrade it to a no fee Hilton card. And same with the Chase Sapphire Reserve, downgrade it to the CSP, downgrade as many as you can. And then from there, you could slowly cancel them too, if you want.
Yeah. And I don't have hard numbers on like, how does this affect your credit? But I feel like as long as it's not your earliest credit card,
Mhm.
I think I've seen people discuss, because people who are not in the military that have this game as a hobby, they will get like, they'll get a card and they'll keep it for a year until that annual fee hits, and then they'll cancel it. Like that's
Mhm.
how some people play the game. And
You can't do that with Amex though.
yeah. My point is though, I'll see people ask like, does that hurt your and I've seen people just respond, I close, maybe a couple a year. So I don't think it's like just crazy detrimental. But no, I think as we get closer to retirement, I will probably sit down and see what could I downgrade, what's worth it for me to keep. Because ultimately, if you really are using these cards like to their max benefit, the annual fee can pay for itself.
Right.
But it's really only if you're utilizing it. So if you have the Amex Platinum and really the only benefit you're getting is the 20 or whatever dollar credit for Hulu, and you're not traveling, you're not using the, I can't even think off the top of my head, the like
Hotel and airline.
hotel, like if you're not using it in that capacity, like maybe that isn't a card you want to keep. But if you are using those benefits, it could easily pay for itself. So I think maybe like going through a list and noting, okay, what do I want to keep and pay for, or what could I possibly downgrade? And then if you just don't enjoy having a lot of cards, then just maybe strategically like canceling one or two, one every 6 months. I don't know.
I think for the Amex, like if they're specifically asking about like getting close to retirement and they have the platinum, I don't think there's any no fee. I think the best is the Amex Gold Green, which is like
Green.
Mhm.
Yeah, I know the gold is 250, I think, or it was. So I think the green is a little bit less than that.
Yeah, it's either 150 or 95. I don't know, something like that. But there is still a little fee. But that's the only one that will still carry the membership rewards.
Yeah.
Points.
Does the
So that's
green?
another thing is you need to transfer your points out
That's
for
a good
those
point.
ones, don't you? Like
Yeah.
for Amex Platinum and the Chase
Yeah, make sure you
Sapphire.
don't lose them.
Right.
Yeah. Did you say the green doesn't get membership reward points?
No, it does.
Oh,
It does.
Yeah.
It's the lowest, like,
It's green, gold,
I
platinum.
see what you're saying. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So, I guess to recap, we can't really tell you when to close cards, but it's kind of just,
What can you downgrade versus what's worth it to keep versus
Yeah.
totally a personal choice depending on your travel and your financial situation at retirement too.
Yeah. And then correct me if I'm wrong. Say you just retired, and I've heard people say they caught up real quick. Like we didn't skirt by for years before they realized we were retired. It was like a month after retirement hit, they're emailing us telling us like, we know. But if you get charged an annual fee and then you decide to downgrade, you can don't you have to call within like, if you call within a month, 30 days,
Yeah, I think so.
and it might be bank dependent. But if it catches you off guard, you got charged an annual fee and you forgot, just call and ask what your options are. And more times than not, they'll be able to reimburse you that fee, and you'll either downgrade or cancel if you decide to do that.
And if you have the Travel Freely app, I almost had a heart attack the other day because I don't know if I have my settings wrong, but got an email something about a $695 fee.
Oh, you probably didn't mark that you're military.
And so, but you could change your Travel Freely to that because it'll give you a heads up for when your
annual fees are due.
And so I was like, oh my gosh, what is this fee? And then I was like, oh, okay.
I love though that you can click that you're military and it will take the fee off.
Oh, I need to do that.
Which I just like. I like that it accounts for that. But Taryn, were you about to say something else? Sorry, Caroline, I can't see you, so I can't tell if you're like wanting to speak.
I was just gonna say that's why I say keep going business cards, because business cards, it doesn't matter if you close them, like because it's not like really connected to you. They have to use your social to like do a hard pull, but otherwise like so you can like cycle through those, and so
That's good.
And Taryn has a really good post on how to apply for those if you don't have what you think would be a business
Yeah.
For instance, I got approved recently because I shop at thrift stores and I refinish furniture or even clothes that you get for half off military discount at the thrift store. You know, if the Lululemon shorts are $6 at the thrift store and you can resell them for 12, that counts as a business.
Mhm.
And
Like rental for a lot of military family would be a great one.
Mhm.
yeah.
Like having a rental.
PCS season when you're selling all your stuff on Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
It's my husband's a business owner, so
Yeah.
he was excited to hear that.
Even if you're giving advice, that's a business. Your
Yeah.
business does not have to make money.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I remember I hate to say I have a legit business because that makes it sound like we're suggesting ways to like skirt the rules. We're 100% not. You could walk into a Chase Bank and say, I sell on Facebook Marketplace. Does that qualify for business? And they will say absolutely. But what I mean is I like my day job. I have a day job and I own the business. And at first I didn't think even that would qualify because I don't make a substantial amount of money. It's just something I started during COVID to just bring in some extra cash so my family could travel. This was honestly even before I got into travel hacking pretty seriously. And so, but I just thought like a business meant I had to have crazy profits and it's, I think for my husband's application, and I make it sound, he very much knew I was applying for him, but he was in the field. So that's why I was doing this for him. But I think I said his like yearly income was, I think $2,000, I think, but I put for monthly expenses, $20. So it doesn't have to be, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Mine was, I think I put only like 800 my first one I applied for and I got approved.
yeah.
So it doesn't, yeah, they kind of are. And if you do get denied, then you just can call back immediately. And basically as soon as you get, because they'll send you like a message in your secure thing and you can just call and ask them. And then they usually just ask like a little bit more about your business and you're like, yeah, I call some things. And then most of the time, unless you have been like delinquent with Chase or something crazy, they usually do approve you when you call.
Yeah.
So
well, this kind of leads in nicely to well, actually, okay, I'm going to skip one. We'll come back. Does it hurt your credit to open up a new card?
So let's go ahead and talk about that. So first, I want to just reiterate that this is not financial advice, right? This is just our kind of understanding as non-professionals of this. And we're not taking anyone's personal situations and circumstances into account. But credit scores are based on either like the FICO or the Vantage score for most of the time. And they can be different with like Experian, can be different from TransUnion of your credit score. And they take into a lot of different factors, right? So opening up and closing credit cards are a factor, but they're just part of it. So the different things that they take into account are like the number of accounts that you have, the type of accounts, right? Are they kind of like revolving accounts and installment accounts? Basically, are they like loans or are these like personal credit cards? And they take into account things like the amount of used credit versus like your total available credit, right? So that percentage of credit that you use, the length of your credit history, and so and then your payment history. And so let's talk about like the length of the credit history, because that's kind of really answering this kind of question of like, does opening a card or like closing card hurt you? So because it takes into account like length of credit history, it can impact that portion of the score. So when they look at length of credit history, they're looking at a few different things. They're looking at how long is your oldest account open, right? So if you close your oldest account, that can have some of the more significant impacts to your credit. And then they're also looking at things like, your overall like average, like what's the average length of your credit having been open. Sometimes that's another one that's looked at. So one of the things I kind of suggest maybe to just think about is if you're about to make like a substantial purchase, like buy a home, maybe that's the wrong time, again, talk to a financial consultant on this, but that might be like the wrong time to go ahead and open a bunch of credit cards is right before a major like loan that you have to get approved for. But otherwise it's a piece of your credit score, but it's not all of your credit score. And it doesn't, and over time, sometimes having that increased credit actually helps build your credit score. So there's a lot of factors to kind of consider there.
I try to go back through my emails. So we bought our first home last year. We PCS'd to Texas last summer, bought our first home. And I remember getting in the mail something that was like, here's like to get pre-approved. Like, here's what your credit scores were. And my husband had his score written and my score written. And I don't remember what it was. It was something, it was somewhere in the 750 or 60. I can't remember. But I try to go back and look, because since then my score has gone up over 800. So, and I have only opened like more credit cards over the last year. So that's a little, I don't have like, financial knowledge behind that. It's just my experience. I remember I was somewhere in like the high 700s, somewhere in there, prior to us buying our home last spring. So we got pre-approved, and within a year and kind of getting more serious into this hobby, my score has only increased. So I say that to say what Caroline just said, where sometimes actually opening more cards, as long as you're using them responsibly,
Right.
potentially raise your credit score.
Yeah. It takes like a couple point drop typically, but then if you think about it, then you're charging the minimum spend, which is $3,000 to $6,000, and paying it right off. And then that helps bring your score up. And I also was special, and we were buying a home last spring, and I think we had like signed the papers or we had done something to where I thought like, oh, I can open a new credit card. And because we were buying our home and buying a new car in the same week. And so I wanted to put I wanted to do my minimum spend for our down payment on the car and then pay it off right away. So I opened up, I think, the Amex Blue Cash Preferred. And then our poor lender was like, no. And so what happened was I just had to have a conference call with our lender and Amex, just having Amex confirm on this 3-way call that like I didn't have a balance on this card. And that was really it, because everyone's always like, oh, I can't open a card, like we're buying a house. And like, it's not a good idea to do. Don't do that. But if you do, if you're like me, it was not the end of the world.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go off that too, because we bought a house sooner than we were expecting to, like 6 to 8 months sooner than we were expecting to. And I had opened the Chase Sapphire Reserve in November, and then we were applying for a mortgage in December, very like unexpectedly. Anyway, and so I was freaking out, but they just sent me a letter and they just said, why did you open this card? And my lender here in Virginia, Maryland area, he just said basically if you're using a VA loan, anything over 750 is the top thing you can get anyway. He kept, because I was freaking out. I was like, oh, I ruined our whatever. So don't do it. But
if you were buying a house, when would you recommend pausing opening cards? Like if we're moving, we're not, but if we are moving next summer, would you recommend like once the new year hits, like 6 months, no opening, or 2 months? Like what,
that's
again,
it's a good question. I guess it probably depends on how long do hard inquiries necessarily stay on, or how I heard often. 6 months. And
6
another
months
group is what I've heard, that you kind of stop opening new lines of credit if you're about 6 months out from your mortgage.
Okay, that's good to know.
And
Just
then
kind of mark that down.
Yeah, and to Amy, to what you said, how it increased, right? So there's probably a combination of things that increased it. One, you have like a new type of credit. So you have like the installment loans on your house that you're paying. So that actually, if you're paying them well, will increase your credit, because that actually helps that whole category of like types of credit, showing that you're responsible with more than one type of credit. And then you also have like the different advantages of having the credit cards open for like an extended period of time, right?
Mhm.
So even if it can sometimes pull you down temporarily, overall, it can help establish your credit by having
Yeah.
those.
Okay. Yeah. I've always noticed, like, if I open a new card, I'll notice within that next statement balance, I might have taken a couple points hit, whatever. But then typically after that next statement, after I've made purchases and then paid it off, already start seeing it climbing up. So
And I think it's also important to note that I wouldn't get too hung up on these like little
yeah,
5-10 points, as long as because if you're at 820 and you go to 800, like that's still a great credit score.
yeah. I make it sound like I check it every day. I just hate when I log into my account that it's right there. Like I almost wish.
Different between Amex and Chase too. Mine is
Yeah.
always higher on the Amex page than
Mine
the
is
Chase
too.
page. By like 20 points, by like
Yeah.
11.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've noticed mine range there too. Okay, so
the reopening, closing to reopen. 'Cause I
yeah,
think
okay.
that's another
How do I
thing.
close and reopen in order to get another sub, so sign up bonus, specifically Chase Sapphire Reserve?
That has to be so most Chase, well, okay, first of all, don't cancel Amex cards ever. Those are once in a lifetime sign up bonuses. So you open those and you get those once. Chase, most cards you can open every 48 months, but the Chase Sapphire Reserve is every 48 months.
So most Chase cards are 24 months. I think.
Yeah, sorry. I was like,
no, that's
thinking
okay.
in my head. I said, did I say
Yeah.
that wrong? 24 months, but the Chase Sapphire Reserve is 48 months, and it's 48 months from when you earned the sign up bonus. So that's when your 48 months starts. So once that happens, you can cancel it before those 48 months are up, but you can't open up a new Chase Sapphire Reserve until those 48 months are up from when you hit the bonus. Now
You're just not eligible for the sign up. In
Yeah.
theory, you could sign up for another one, but you just
right,
not
but
eligible.
that's
to
the
sign
whole
up.
purpose. People are like, well, why would you close it? Well, you would close it because then you could get that 60 to 80,000 points again, which that's the sign up bonuses are your moneymaker. Like your everyday spend gets you pennies and points basically, unless you're spending thousands of dollars in one category or something like that.
And on like in the right category, like.
Yeah, because I was talking about this with somebody with the Amex Gold, how I just upgraded from the Gold to the Platinum. And there were a lot of people that were like, oh, well, we really like it for 4 times the restaurants. But I calculated it in addition to, like, if you're actually going to use the Platinum benefits, you would have to spend like 15 grand a year or something on out to eat restaurants to get 60,000 points.
Yeah.
And with the Amex Platinum, I utilize the $200 airline credit, the $240 digital credit, the SACS credit, which is $100. Like all of that right there is worth more than 60,000 points in my mind, but it's different for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. I am about to do that for the first time with my Southwest card. I think it felt, I think it was up in like, I want to say it was like March, but I haven't canceled it yet because I have a flight coming up in October that I want to use my upgraded boarding ticket. Like I've never used my the free free whatever. But so I have a alarm on my calendar that after we get back from that trip, I can cancel that card. And then I'm going to reopen it. I think I'm not even going to go off in the weeds here. I'm trying to figure out my strategy to try and get a companion pass. I can't decide. I found a way where my husband and I can both get one, but I don't know if it's worth it because he's going to be in Korea for a large part of next year. And I'm just like, I don't know if we would even utilize, like, I don't know if he's going to be able to travel with us much over the next 2 years. So I don't know. So I might just get a companion pass just for, okay, not going in the weeds there, but I'm going to be doing that for the first time. I don't think
it goes against everything I feel like people think to do, because you're not only opening a new card, but you're closing one too.
I know. I'm not going to lie. Like the thought of it has been like it made me anxious at first. But I don't know. We'll see. If you would have told me 2 years ago, I would have what I currently have.
Oh my gosh, I know.
I
Because
would
I
have
remember
passed
helping
out.
you get the Hyatt card.
I know. I would have passed out. Literally passed out. Okay, Caroline, Karen, do you have anything you want to add about opening and closing to get another sign-up bonus?
Yeah, I was just gonna add that it has, so 48 months, yes, but it's 48 months from when you, and I think you said it, but I'm just reiterating it, when you got the actual sign-up bonus.
Yes.
So don't base it off of like,
When you
I
open
applied for the card in March, so March 48 months later, I'm gonna get the new one. You have to look back at your statement and see when they awarded the points.
Mm-hmm.
And then even then, I would wait like 2 weeks to a month just to be sure.
That's a good point. So would you close it and then in an hour call back and reopen it? I know the answer is no, but I'm asking like what
You can.
I mean, you can, but in my brain, I feel like I would feel comfortable closing it and then maybe next week, waiting like a week at least.
Mhm.
But
That's
I didn't
typically
know
what I do.
Yeah.
I was just gonna look in my little notes because I actually, okay, so for instance, my husband got the United card, the club card in September of 2021. So he probably didn't hit his bonus until November. So I will probably cancel it in like December and then reopen it like in January after I check everything. But I'm going to do that to get the points again because I'm dragging him to Australia at some point. And so I'm trying to collect all of the United points that I can. And then I'm available to do the same thing. I opened mine in October of 2021. So I'll be along the similar plan as that. So that's also something to keep in mind. If you're playing the game seriously, as far as your 5 for 24 status, look at what cards are coming up that you can cancel. Because I know in my mind, sometimes I'm like, oh, well, what's the next card I can get that I don't have? But also, let me look at the cards I do have that I can cancel and reopen if those are ones that I utilize a lot.
And then also, like, so your husband's going to cancel his, but when he reapplies, he's going to use your referral.
Yeah, or vice versa.
And vice versa. Yeah. So
awesome. The only thing I'd kind of add in there, so I know you guys already probably hit this point, but just kind of reiterate, right? So when you're kind of thinking about how you want to do this, since this is all about chase for the most part, you definitely got to think about that 5 and 24. But overall, I haven't really done this. I've never really, except for, so back in the day, we talked about the SCRA and everything. For the active duty service members, Chase sometimes had waived some fees. And then depending if you were like from a key provision state, like Louisiana, I think Pennsylvania and Ohio are the 3. I could be wrong on that. But then at one point, a couple years ago, they started making it free for everyone, even if you didn't open it prior to active duty. So you actually had to close your old account just to reopen it to get it to be free for your annual fee. So that's actually the only time I've ever closed
and
a
reopen
Chase card. Otherwise, I've never because it's not my strategy. I have a very like right now I have a very like hotel strategy because you get those reoccurring bonuses. So if I were to go ahead and close my cards, I would lose my anniversary free hotel nights.
Yeah.
And it's the anniversary free hotel nights that are like such a big part of like my strategy that I just don't, this is not how I usually do it. I just open up other cards that give me subs instead.
Yeah.
So I have like an ever growing portfolio.
Yeah. I feel like I would like to do it for Southwest card, but yeah, I feel like I'll probably like those transferable points is probably where I would focus on getting those sign up bonuses again. But no, I totally agree with the like co-branded like specific airline or hotel cards. But that's actually, we should totally do another one of these where we all talk about like, I'm always fascinated by people's strategy. Like what's in your lineup, or like how do you decide which one to get next, or I don't know. It's just I'm a
Well,
geek. I
because
like
it's
talking
different
about
for
stuff.
everybody.
It's very different for everybody.
priorities and
But I
also,
like,
can you drive? Do you fly?
yeah, and I just think sometimes, especially people that are getting new into this, they get that analysis paralysis because they feel like there's only one right way, and that's just not it. Like I might like during Amazon Prime, there are a couple people that were like, do not waste a 524 slot on this. I love my Amazon Prime card. I get so much cash back on that. And it's the only cashback cards aren't my favorite. I want travel points.
Yeah.
But I get so much cash back on the Prime card because when we were stationed overseas, that's how we shopped. We got everything from Amazon. I got it when I didn't know about 524. So it's not even in a slot anymore. I probably would reconsider it a little bit now, but I wouldn't say it's like this card that is just totally useless. Like I get a lot of value out of that card. So it's just, I don't know. My point is, it's just always fascinating to hear everyone's and to just realize that there's no one right way, that it works differently for everyone. So, okay. So then the next two kind of subjects that we're going to touch on is questions regarding earning points and questions regarding how you actually redeem those points. And I will preface by saying we're going to read the questions. We'll kind of touch base on them. But we're definitely, if you guys enjoy this, like we can do this again and go more in depth on a lot of this stuff. But this particular chat was just, hey, everyone give us some of your questions. And so we're kind of all over the place. But these two like subjects we're going into, we could spend hours here talking about this. So we're going to kind of just be kind of basic with it. But we can definitely go into some of these topics deeper down the road. So starting with earning points, which Chase card is the best travel card and is interchangeable with Amex Platinum and gives the most points to travel, specifically flights?
I think this just depends. Again, when you're looking at, Amy made a really good chart, a very simple chart between Amex and Platinum and which partners so when they talk about, traveling, a lot of people think, oh, I can just get the Amex Platinum and use those points for whatever, but they have partners that they partner with. And so for instance, you need to look at if you want airline points, what airline do you fly the most? Because if it's Delta, then you should probably go with Amex. If it's Southwest, you definitely don't go with Amex, you go with Chase. So you really have to, you can't go wrong either way, really, because in my opinion, you need the Chase Sapphire Reserve and the Amex Platinum, but you do need to look at the travel partners and see which ones align with your lifestyle.
And by travel partners, you mean like I can move my points and book?
Yes, like for instance, Chase partners with Hyatt if you stay at Hyatt a lot. We really like Hilton, and everyone always hates on Hilton for their point value, but I've stayed at Hilton's for free for years. But that is Amex. And so, I can't use, I suppose if you're booking through the portal, you probably can use them for like other things, but I don't think I've ever really booked anything through the portals because I've never found good deals through the portals. The best is I transfer out to say my Hyatt account or my Hilton account. I transfer them to there, and then through the Hyatt or Hilton website, I book my room.
Yeah.
Except for those stupid, God, what is it called? The Amex, like Fine Hotel. They make you.
Oh, yeah, I do book that. And I did actually just book that. I booked one for Disneyland when we go to California in November. And it was expensive because it's like a Westin or something, like right by either Legoland or Disneyland. And we can walk to one of the two parks. And so I used 20,000 points and the $200. So I think I owe like $50 at check-in or something.
Mhm.
And that was the first time that I'd ever used points and the fine hotel thing, which was really cool to be able to combine that.
Yeah, that is cool. We used Fine Hotels in Tucson at the Ritz this summer. And when we booked it, we don't have any Marriott co-branded cards. We only have like a Marriott account that is gold status because of our Amex card. And when I booked the room, there is a place where you can put your like loyalty number. And I've read mixed, like sometimes if you book Fine Hotels and Resorts, sometimes that particular hotel chain will honor your status and sometimes they won't. And sometimes you'll get points for the stay and sometimes you won't. It's kind of a gamble, but we did. It showed up in our Marriott account. It showed up, I say, yeah, there's not a lot, like you have your gold, but I don't feel like Hilton or Marriott, that really means much. You usually get like a bottle of water. But we did get points because we did spend over what the $100 resort credit was. We spent a little bit more and we got points for that.
It's my understanding that with Fine Hotels and Resorts, it does count your membership because it's booked differently. It's not actually a booked third party per se. I think one actually like books it through Amex's. I don't want to say they call and book it, but it's something special.
Mm-hmm.
But if you book hotel collection, or if if you book the hotel collection for that $200, or outside of that $200, if you just book normally on that, you don't get any of it because it's all third party. I think through like Expedia. I don't know who is through.
So if I just went on the travel portal and paid with points or cash, not Fine Hotels and Resorts, just a regular Marriott down the road,
then it's my understanding it's all third party booking. And you not only do not get your points, but let's say you're a diamond at Hilton, I'm pretty sure you also don't benefits. But now if you book the Hilton, like I've stayed at the Waldorf Astoria in Phoenix on the Hotels and Resorts, and it was amazing because not only did I get all my diamond benefits for Hilton, but I also got all the Fine Hotel and Resort benefits. And I also did it during one of their specials where it came with like an extra $400, like maybe it was $300 in credit to spend.
Dang, nice. That's cool. So this kind of feeds nicely into the next question. And we actually posted about this today on our Instagram. Besides Amex Platinum, what's the next card a military family must have and why? And obviously we might all have different opinions on this. And this is not capital T truth. This is just like if you were my best friend and you came up to me and said, hey, Amy, I have the platinum. What should I get next? What would you say?
Karen would say all the business cards.
Yeah.
Well, no, first Chase Sapphire.
That's mine.
Sure.
Yeah. I just love the travel credit on that. Like,
it's not an everyday use card. It would just be like sign up bonus, $300, and then move on to the inks. And then I still think the Hilton Spire, I'm like holding out that I'm going to get out of Amex jail. But if I don't,
we're the same, Taryn.
Yeah, me too. I'm in it too.
If I don't by like November, I'm just going to do it without it because I feel like the benefits are there no matter what. I mean,
I want the diamond status in my name and I want the free night.
Well, you can still get that without the sign up bonus.
That's Taryn.
Yeah,
we're
just
talking
gonna
about.
like
We might have to forgo the sign up bonus.
Yeah.
So my vote is Chase Sapphire Reserve. And I don't know. I feel like the platinum is not I don't like the platinum. I don't not like it. But like if we lost the platinum tomorrow, I'm okay. I don't do a lot of shopping. So for me, like the Saks credit's cool. I get my Chanel lip balm twice a year. But like I'm just not a big shopper.
I love shopping.
And
for free too.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's just I feel like I do like how on the platinum you can book airlines. It doesn't have to be through the portal. It can be I go to AmericanAirlines.com and I book a flight and I get 5 times. Whereas Chase, you only get there like I think it's 5 times if you book through the Chase portal. But if I go to American Airlines and book a flight and pay with my Sapphire Reserve, I only get 3 times. But other than that, I think the insurance is better on the Reserve, the travel insurance.
Rental car insurance too.
The primary rental car insurance. I need to, don't
I
quote
think they
me on
do cell
this.
phone coverage too.
Yeah. And I know Lisa
Well, the
has a
Amex cell phone
firsthand,
coverage is
yeah,
really nice.
I know Lisa has a firsthand experience on the Amex cell phone coverage, but I should have prepped for this because I knew I wanted to talk about this. Sapphire Reserve, you get the full insurance coverage, even if you only booked a portion of your flight or whatever on the card. So for me, I'm working on a sub right now, but when I had to pay the taxes and fees for our flights next summer, I put that $500 on my Sapphire Reserve, even though I'm trying to meet an 8K spend, because I want that insurance in case something happens next summer. So
yeah, I never pay attention to like travel insurance and stuff because I don't pay, like, I never pay for anything. Like,
well, I paid, my flights were points, but I still had to pay taxes and fees, and they were a lot because they're international.
but if you were to cancel with the points, don't you just get those refunded?
The points would come back. I don't know how
It's
taxes
like
and
with
fees.
Southwest, for instance, like if I were to book flights and you have to pay the like whatever $560 per each way or whatever, when I cancel that point redemption, I have the choice of either getting that back to my Southwest account.
I'm talking more like lost luggage,
Like weather
overnight,
delay.
like worse, like 8-hour delay. I think, again, we could do a whole post on travel insurance, specifically with Sapphire Reserve, but like you get X amount of dollars per day. I think it's like $200 or $300. That if they lost my luggage, I now have cash to go get replacements.
We did that once with the Southwest.
And then I think if you're delayed over a certain amount of time, they will cover your accommodations. That's more what I am looking at. Whereas I think Amex, like I could be wrong. Is Amex the whole amount has to be purchased?
Yeah, and it's only for like the main like if you have people accompanying you on your trip, like don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it's just like the main card holder who is like covered. Whereas with Chase, like if you have accompanying people with you, like and they're on your reservation, then they are like also covered under the same insurance or something.
They may only be covered if they're family. I have to look at that again because actually,
like
read that recently. I think they have to be your primary member.
Yeah, like your kids or grandparent, like
but I don't think
family.
but I think it has to be your primary family. I don't even think parents count. But I'll have to look at that
like
again.
Your immediate household.
Yeah. And then I know, Lisa, you said, I just want to clarify this. You said points would be refunded. So that's not always, it's totally airline dependent. If you would be able to get a refund or not on your points if you have to cancel.
Oh, okay. Because I know I pretty much only have done United and Southwest, and I've not ever had issues with either one of those.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure United, they just refund them back.
And Southwest is
amazing.
I'm a huge Southwest fan. I'm like, I could like go on and on about Southwest, but even recently, so I always book the cheapest, travel times. Like I literally was getting into Denver like 12:30 in the morning with my 2 kids by myself, but it was the cheapest for points. And they changed my like itinerary like by minutes, and you can change your flight then for free. So I changed it from Sunday to Saturday, and I got us on a nonstop flight, and it was totally free.
Yeah.
And
that's nice.
I could even change the day of my travel. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I love Southwest.
Me too. I do too.
For military and the flexibility
it
provided me, from a military standpoint, when you have to have all your leave and everything is just been incredible.
Yeah.
A side note from that, you can always, anytime they're running a sale, you can always check your flights too, and they'll refund you the points if it's gone down in price.
So that happened too. So my husband wasn't supposed to he was coming back early for work, and he was flying into Colorado Springs, and he wasn't supposed to get in until like midnight, and he had left his car there, and he was just going to go to the office and sleep, and because he had to go to work the next morning. And I was like, well, let me just check and see like if I can get you on an earlier flight. And like 2 days before, I got 2,000 points back, and I got him home at 10 o'clock instead. It was great. I love Southwest.
Yeah. So I originally had this next question down under the redeeming and using points, but I think maybe it's a good segue into talking about redeeming. But let's talk about the difference in like transferable points, and then like your flex points, and then your like your co-brand, like your Hilton, the points that are sitting in your Hilton account or in your United account. How are those different, and why do we tend to push a lot your Amex Platinums, your Golds, your Sapphire Reserves, the inks? Like, why do we care so much about the ink? Does anybody want to go there? I'm really passionate about this as of lately.
So, Karen.
Yes, because they're transferable.
They're
So you
transferable.
can-
I don't know if
you
people
can-
quite understand, like, yeah,
Well, especially because they market it as $750 back.
yeah.
And so a lot of times people see that and they're like, well, that's a cash back then. But then the fine print, it's actually ultimate rewards. It's 75,000.
And you're talking about the business ink cashback card.
Yeah. And so they like the way they market it, it seems like it's $750 back, but really it's 75,000 points. And then you combine your points in your account. So when you go into you like combine your business with your Chase Sapphire rewards account. And then from there, you can put you just like go to the tabs and go down to the bottom and say combine points, and you put them all together. And so because those business cards have such high sign-up bonuses and their transferable part, like you can use them on Hyatt, you can use them on Southwest. I mean, it can be for hotels, it can be for flights. Like you don't have to be stuck to just getting hotels. Like maybe you're going somewhere that doesn't have a Hilton, so you want to use your points this time for the flights instead. That's why I like that better. I mean, the other ones have their place because they're free annual fees.
Yeah.
So, but
Well, if you do you could do there's a $95 ink, which is 100,000. And then I think the free one is 75,000. And then if you had the Chase Sapphire Reserve at 60,000, like you're
rolling.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're like 200 and some thousand points just with those three cards. And those can be used for anything. And so say if you're like me and you want to go to Australia on United and you're going to need 250,000 United points for your family of 4, well, then you can then go on. So that's just one person too for the 200,000. So then if you do that for player 2, then you're at like 400,000 points right there. And then, you've got points left over you can use for a hotel or whatnot, or save for later, or use for cash back if you wanted to.
And then you might catch it when there's a transfer bonus. So transfer bonus is like, I just happened to luck out on this where I knew I was more than likely either the way there or the way back was to our trip next summer was probably going to be utilizing Flying Blue. So I kind of slightly took a gamble because I didn't have like my dates weren't open yet. I couldn't book even if I wanted to. So I didn't know 100% if it would work, but I was trying to follow trends and I was thinking, okay, if I can, and I knew my dates were somewhat flexible. Like I wasn't like, I have to leave this day. I can move it back or forth if I need to. The month before I booked, Amex had a transfer bonus to Flying Blue, which means if I transfer, what was it? 1 to,
it was like 30% or something,
yeah,
right?
it was something. Yeah, it was 20 or 30%. But for every one membership reward point that I transferred into Flying Blue, I got 20% more. So I only had to transfer 20,000 membership reward points. And I think it was 37,000 is what actually deposited into my Flying Blue account. So that's also another perk of like transferring out when there happens to be a transfer bonus. If again, I'm very much don't make moves unless you have a plan. That's my personal strategy. I'm not very big on risk taking. But if there's a transfer bonus and next year you're going to be staying at a Hyatt, transferring those points and getting more than what you actually transferred, like you can't do that in the portal. So yeah, I know people ask that a lot. I know I didn't understand that. I thought like every card, you just had your own, it was its own little house and you could only use your points kind of in that specific realm. Whereas you'll hear us a lot talk about membership reward points, which is Amex's kind of currency, and Chase Ultimate Rewards, which is Chase's currency. And it's kind of like universal points. You can divvy those up to different airlines, and we do have a transfer partner cheat sheet. You can search it. If whatever, however I post this, I can even put that in the comments. But it's kind of a quick way you can pull it up and see, okay, Amex I can transfer to these different things, and Chase I can transfer to these different things. Whereas when I have the Hilton Aspire card and my husband goes to the grocery store, yes, we get 7 times the points, but we get 7 times Hilton points, which is fine, especially if we're trying to build up Hilton points for a particular trip that we want to take. I would rather, rack up the points that way. But if I'm trying to book a flight on United, using my Hilton card might not be my best option.
Right. Although there was just a thing where, what is the Amex at restaurants? Is it 5 times? Or there was something recently where you
the Amex Gold referral where you got 10 times the points at
no, it was
grocery,
something
never
where
mind.
like you get 7 times at restaurants with Hilton, but if you actually use the platinum and you got just say like 4 times or whatever, when you transfer those points to Hilton, though, they're at a 1-to-2 ratio. So like 1 Amex point is 2 Hilton points. So like in that instance, it made sense to still use the Amex card because ultimately you could transfer more, you'd get more Hilton points that way.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah.
you have to really know, like, but again, like everyday spend is just pennies, in my opinion, on, in the points game.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was in this post where we asked for people to leave questions. Someone had said, like, I didn't realize that when I got my Aspire card that it was only banking points for Hilton.
The cards,
and I should also denote, and I did, there are like, you can technically transfer, there are like,
right.
I've never even considered it. There are
Don't do
horrible
that.
redemptions, so I've never even looked into it. But just in case someone wants to, you're wrong. Yes, you can technically transfer. I pulled it up because I knew I'd want to talk about it. Like,
terrible.
like Hilton, I can transfer Hilton points. Of course, it went away. Okay, for 20,000. No, okay. The minimum point transfer, I have to transfer 20,000 Hilton points, and for every 10 Hilton points, I only get 1 Flying Blue point.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So it's just people. You're not gonna read that in a travel hacking blog. Like nobody's gonna recommend that you do that.
Yeah.
So that's why we're not even technically. There are some things that co-branded hotel cards do let you transfer out, but it's not usually the best use of your points.
And yeah, the gold and the green would be cards to build up your MR points.
Yeah.
And I don't have the green, but we did that with the golds because I think we signed up when it was maybe 80,000. I want to say it was 80,000, but then we had a specific trip planned. And for us, it made sense to transfer out to Hilton because they were doing like, it was like 1 to 2.7 or something like that. And we were going to Hawaii. And so I was able to combine, my like 150,000 gold points between the 2 cards to over 300,000 Hilton points.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. If I have a really hard time utilizing Amex Platinum points for some reason, besides transferring them to Hilton, which everybody always scoffs at. But I'm like, we don't fly like Delta, and there's really, I can transfer them to Marriott, I guess, but with the free night certificates with the Marriott cards, we seem to have enough points.
Hilton, you don't have to have a charge when you transfer. So really it's better than Delta because Delta charges you to even transfer your points.
Right. And so
Yeah.
that's why I've never done it, because
I
I'm so
had a
cheap.
girlfriend say that to me, and I thought, you must be wrong. You must be talking about a lot of people mess up. They'll say they have this particular friend. She thought she had the Amex Platinum. She had the Amex Delta Platinum. So I just thought maybe she had her card wrong. And then no, sure enough, I looked it up and I was like, you are right. There is a transfer fee. I just
Which
never
Hilton
To
doesn't
Delta?
have.
to
Yeah, to
Delta.
even though they're
But-
like
But not
co-owned.
for the Delta card. For the
No,
Platinum
for
card.
Amex Platinum, your platinum card.
Yeah.
If you want to
No, I knew they
transfer,
charged you to transfer those out. That's why I
Yeah.
was like, I don't understand where people always utilize all these points. I mean, I guess Marriott transfers at 1-to-1, but I mean,
It's a lot. Like I'm pretty sure they do American Airline. Like a lot of the people who try to do like the business class for like 35,000 points and stuff, like they do those weird obscure airlines.
that's true. I'm like, nah,
Yeah,
I
I
got kids. We're
don't-
just
yeah.
sitting in the back of the bus.
I'm more
Yeah.
local, so
yeah.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
I was okay. I have that chart right here where I feel like, so I thought those Amex points to Flying Blue, that was a good option for us. Amex.
And I think that's where a lot of people like will say, oh, I wouldn't get that card, or that's a waste of a spot, or I wouldn't use the points for that. But it's all relative, because it's
Yeah.
all about what is important to your family and where you're going to utilize points.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
like when we lived in Arizona, I'm pretty I don't even know that Delta flew. Like I think it was United and Southwest were the only two airlines we really flew when living there. But like when we lived in Washington State, Southwest didn't. It was all connecting. Like we had to use either Alaska or Delta or Unite. Like I don't know.
Mhm.
After moving around, it's gonna
Mhm.
change.
Yeah, yeah. I know. I have a Delta card, and right now it does not make sense for me, like to take Delta flights.
Yeah, same here.
So I'm nearish to Houston, which is a United hub. So I now have a United card, and I got it right before they devalued.
Me too.
But I do have it. But I'm not going to close my Delta, because who knows where we're going to be in 2 years. And I might be near a hub where some of the redemptions make sense. I know Delta gets a lot of flack for not being the best program, but every now and then, if you get a good flash sale, you could find a good redemption. So I don't want to
I'm flying us down to Walt Disney World, and it was only 85,000 points per. It was one way. Like I did them almost one way, but I think that's like $85.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was 85,000 points for like not even the basic economy. It was like normal.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I think I just have a good one.
The United too is, I really like having that, because then that's how I use all my airline credit too, is with the United Travel Bank.
Yeah.
And so that's another reason, like for me, it makes sense to upgrade our golds to platinum so that we get that extra $200 each of airline credit, since we have found a way to utilize that. And so
What's the timeline? Like, so if I've had my gold over 2 years, when can
it's
I
just 1
upgrade?
year. Just
Oh,
one. Yeah. And then, you can change your airline. Once you get the cards, like your American Express or whatnot, or your Hilton Aspire, you can utilize, or you set your airline like whenever after you get it. But then after that, you can only change it in January.
And unless you haven't used it at all.
Right.
Oh,
Did they let you change it since you hadn't used it?
yeah. Like I reached out in like September, and I was like, hey, I have never even touched this. Can I change it from United to Delta or whatever? I don't remember what my change was. It was like Alaska, I think, because we were in Washington, and they did it. I think it probably depends on the person, but as long as you haven't used any part of it, I think pretty much they usually always say yes.
Oh, nice.
I need to do
That's what I've heard as well.
Yeah, I need to do Eddie's Aspire card. We haven't. I just
Aspire is a better airline credit than Platinum.
Huh?
The Aspire has more airline credit than the Platinum.
I know, so I need to do that. Okay, so
I'm gonna have to leave. I'm
Okay.
early morning.
yeah,
I'm
we
on
only
East
have
Coast
like
time
one
here.
more
Oh,
question.
yeah.
I'm gonna merge it together. So, we're
Okay.
almost done.
Bye,
So
Taryn.
well, thanks,
All
Taryn.
right.
Bye.
Yeah, absolutely. Bye.
Bye.
So the last question is just, and we kind of already touched base, how to transfer points in the travel portal, and why would we transfer out versus using the travel portal? And I know I just recently made a post, if you want to go back and read it, with like, I posted, it's long, but I really was trying to explain everything, and I posted some pictures, screenshots of like comparing like the trip that I did piece together versus if I did that in the portal. I didn't pull it up, but it blew my mind. Like, I think I paid 97,000 points for me and my two girls from Houston to Nairobi with a stopover in Amsterdam for 3 days. And I did the same itinerary. I found the exact same flight, like the same KLM flight. And it was 215,000 points in the portal.
I know. Caroline, have you ever had good luck in the portal? Because I don't think I've ever booked through the portal.
Never booked the portal, and I wouldn't, just because it also, I think, books third party.
Yeah.
And I think you could, if there ends up being like a cancellation or a problem with your flight, I imagine it's gonna be much harder to get it all resolved and fixed. And that's what I've also heard from other people as well that have actually used the portal to book like flights.
I've used the portal before, I think for flights, and I think I've just booked hotels cash, and it's been fine, but I've had no problems. I too have since heard that it essentially on the back end, like it's no different than booking Expedia or Kayak as far as being a third party. So if there's something wrong with the hotel, I can't call Hilton and say, hey, this is an issue. They'd say, it's showing that you booked third party, so you're going to need to call that particular. I just heard it adds an extra layer if something does go wrong. So yeah, for that alone, I'm not really I've seen people utilize it though for like excursions, like booking different excursions. Whether your points are worth it or not, I don't know. You'd have to decide that for yourself. But even maybe you just pay cash and then you get more points for booking in the portal. But
yeah, and I think as far as transferring out, like for instance, if I want to transfer to Marriott and I don't have a Marriott account, you can just go make an account for free. You get your number and then you link it in the Chase or the Amex portal, and then you can just transfer points and they'll show up. Mine for like Hilton at least typically show up like almost immediately. Sometimes I'll just have to log out and then log back in. But that's typically what I do. But before I transfer the points, I make sure like this is where I want to stay. If I'm deciding between a Marriott or Hilton, I make sure they have the room available for the dates I need, and then I transfer the points. Because once you transfer the points, you can't transfer them back.
Absolutely. And that, I'm glad you said that, because that was really the last little question was, do you need other cards or just the loyalty account? So I think what this person was asking was, okay, you're telling me I can transfer my Ultimate Rewards to Hyatt. Do I need to have a Hyatt card? No. All you have to have is a Hyatt loyalty number, which you can go to their website and create immediately. I do have a Hyatt card, and with my Hyatt card came a loyalty number, but I don't have to have that. But you do have to have a loyalty account, because when you transfer your points out, it needs to know
go somewhere
which account to dump into. And just know that you can only transfer your points to the name that's on the account. So I can't transfer my membership reward points from Amex. I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't say, here's my Amex portal. I want to transfer my Amex points to my husband's Hilton account.
Right.
The Hilton number that I type in to say it must transfer to this, it has to be the same name. And it will say that in the fine print. I honestly, I didn't like, if you just go over to the tab, the like 3 little dash tab, just go down where it says transfer partners and spend some time looking like, what are my options? If there's a transfer bonus, it will typically show it at the top, and just kind of see what the bonus is, click into it, read about it, see the screen that you would have to enter your number in. that's how I learned. Like it's not,
Yeah.
I don't want to be like, it's not hard. Like, I don't want anybody feeling bad for asking, but it's very, very self-explanatory, and it walks you through the process. Like, it will have you put your number in, then it will have you put the amount of points that you would like to transfer. And it will even tell you, like, you have to do it in 1,000 increments. You
Right.
can't do like to the single digit. And then you click next, and then it will say, please review. Does this look correct? You can't undo this. Once this is done, it's done. And you say confirm. So it really is very, very easy to do that, but 100% don't do it unless you have a plan. Because you can't get them back. So
Yeah, and sometimes I look on places like Flyer Talk just to get data points of like how long a transfer takes, because some of them are instantaneous and some
Yeah.
can take 2 days, and that can really mess up your plans too.
Yeah.
If it comes
Right.
out.
my Hyatt has always been instantaneous, but it does actually say it could take 2 to 3 business days is what it says on the thing. But Hyatt's always been instantaneous for me. Another option, and I put this in my post too, Flying Blue. I found my flight. I got the booking, and they reserved it for, one guy told me 48 hours. Another guy told me 72. Regardless, they held it while I moved points over.
That's super nice.
But even Flying Blue was instantaneous for me. It moved it over immediately. But yeah, that's a very good point. No pun intended. So that's the end of the questions. Like we said, I know it's a lot of information. And obviously we can't go in, we could go in depth over every single question. We could probably spend an entire little chat session over every question. But that was what was the most frequently asked question. And I would say that typically is kind of the most frequently asked questions, in general.
Yeah. And I think that if there's anything anybody would like us to expand on in the future, I know I would totally be happy doing this again, just because sometimes I feel like it's kind of overwhelming reading everything or Googling and then reading. And sometimes I feel like just hearing things, or also being able for me to explain something like verbally is much easier than like trying to write out a post too about it.
Yeah.
So I would definitely be open to doing this again if it was, even on something very specific that somebody, had questions on.
Yeah. If you guys enjoy it, definitely let us know, and maybe we'll, brainstorm another topic, or leave a comment letting us know what topic you'd like to have us discuss. But Caroline, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, just thank you everyone for joining us today, right? And listening through this.
And thank you so much. I love this group, because even though we have like over 4,000 people, like everybody is so nice and helpful and kind. And we really appreciate everybody taking the time to comment on other people's posts too, because it is a lot just for the, 5 or 6 of us to keep track of that. And everybody's always so helpful in giving their knowledge and opinions too. So we really appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you guys.
Okay.
Y'all have a good night.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.